Thank you so much, Pyro. Welcome back to the analyst desk. And y'all, I think, Pyro was joking about how we couldn't show the death in bot lane on stream because it was just too graphic. But I think that game was graphic anyway, as Dragoon became the action hero. Rate this movie R for the bleed from the Darius. I mean, man, that was a great game. Jake Kittens falls as Cincinnati Fear takes it. RMC, I know we're feeling good about our 2-1 predictions right now, but what happened that game? Walk me through it.
I mean, Cincinnati Fear just got their bingo card, right? They get Dragoon, Darius, check, right? Goo, Kindred, check. Sketch and Plux getting dominant lane, check. It was just everything Cincinnati Fear could possibly have wanted, and they just executed so well. You can see they had a game plan coming in, and they just executed. Whereas Jake Kittens felt like they weren't quite on the same page, and we said this might be an issue with Aaron off the table right now, and with Dunks coming in. Well, yeah, it kind of showed. We did not see the coordination that got Jake Kittens first seed in their group.
For sure, and it really didn't show, and I know we had some opinions as well about Scoop's Samira pick didn't really pan out into the super safe lane of the Senatom Kench. But even though, draft definitely seemed very Cincinnati Fear favored, it feels like they got what they want. That's only half the battle. You've got to execute upon it. And Cincinnati Fear, I mean, they came out and they truly did put Jake's Kittens in that horror movie that we had them tagged as earlier, because it starts in the early game. Trance, walk us through. Goo managed to get that 3 buff, but how did that sort of enable Cincinnati Fear to really take control of the game?
I think it was really good how the Darius was able to push away with that Q. It really set up for Goo to be able to take all the camps towards that blue top side, and taking away those camps is pretty huge, because now you just are able to enable that Kindred to basically walk between the mid and top lane, and Graves just path towards that side really didn't get anything out of that, when we really should have been looking to split that map.
Yeah, and we saw it on screen right there. I mean, not only did the map get split, but that's what allows Dragoon to go crazy. RMC, I think you had a point.
Yeah, exactly, and that was the replay that we were getting to see was set up by what Trance was talking about there, right? The fact that Goo goes over there, make sure that, hey, I've got all the buffs here, we've got control over this side of the map, you can start playing a little bit aggressive, I'm gonna be here, I've got the level advantage, I can back you up.
Right, and if you give Dragoon a good Darius angle, you definitely gotta be prepared. And Cincinnati Fear, they managed to make it work, because even though we saw Jake's Kittens, they tried to attack the bottom side a little bit, and it didn't not work. They got some kills and stuff, but it didn't really give them enough of an advantage to take control in the team fights. And RMC, we didn't really see too many team fights this game until it seemed like the side of Cincy Fear had already really looked pretty good in this game.
Yeah, I mean, even up to third Drake there, you could see that the kill count was fairly low for both these teams. They didn't quite really want to fight here, and I think part of it's just with the way the drops panned out. Jake Kittens wanted to wait to scale up a little bit, and this is the third dragon fight that kind of broke out. And you'll notice that Prismo's the one who kicked it off for Jake Kittens. But look at where Ryoma is. Ryoma is coming out of base, no teleport. Yes, he's got the Corki package, but at this point, his Mana Immune still hasn't completed either. So Jake Kittens wasn't in the best of positions, and they still opted for this fight, ended up losing Prismo, losing Dragon, losing full control of the map, and it felt like this was that breaking point for them. If Jake Kittens held on, they had a chance to scale, but because they opted it is Victor, getting that point, and after that, Jason, you just don't get an opportunity to team fight anymore. You just lose the fights from there on out.
Right, and remember, that's also some of the power of the Senatom Kench. Even though Sketch and Plux were attacked a little bit early on, you can't engage into that no matter where they are in their game state. So Prismo goes in a little prematurely, gets taken down, and it's just a great look from the side of Cincy Fear. But as we sort of look forward in the next game, Trance, I want to hear about what maybe Jake's Kittens can do to regain that look that we know that they can have, that dominant performance we've seen so far from them in this tournament.
I really want to see the side of Jake's Kittens jungler really pathing towards their win con and really looking to enable that bot lane to be able to do what they know that they're capable of doing. And as soon as they're able to unlock that mid and bot lane, I'm sure they'll have a way better showing for this next coming game.
Cool. Well, we'll see if they're able to do it. Enable your mid and bot lane to carry a little bit harder. Maybe don't give up such a super safe lane. But we've got a couple minutes now. Let's bring back up the movies genres now. We've got Cincy Fear and Jake Kittens. They are tagged as we had Jake's Kittens as horror, and we had Cincinnati Fear as drama. It's looking like a pretty dramatic series already, as Cincy Fear is maybe on the verge of the upset, but we've got 2 more teams now to place. 100 Thieves next, and the other team that they are playing that I am blanking on, it is, of course, Taco Gaming. Thank you, RMC.
It's Tuesday. It's got to be Taco.
Oh, God, you're right. How could I forget on their special day? I'm dropping the ball. But, all right, well, so let's start with Taco Gaming. I'm sorry for blanking on that one. Where are we feeling? What kind of genre is this team?
Do we have a food documentary genre here?
Oh, I should have done that. That would have been so good. Dang. Maybe that makes them... I mean, me personally, I know this is something I've been tossing you, but me personally, right, I see Taco Gaming. We love our Taco Tuesday memes. They've got one of the best memes in the scene. Does that make them the comedy team? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm down for Taco comedy. Chance?
Me too. I'd agree with that 100%.
We like it?
Yeah.
All right, perfect.
Okay.
Taco Gaming, they're a comedy. Write it in. And then finally, 100 Thieves next. Are they action, rom-com, classic, buddy cop, or mystery? Trance, I'm going to go to you first.
Ooh, 100 Thieves next. I'm going to have to say rom-com.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to have to say rom-com. I think they just got that love on that team, you know what I'm saying? Like, they got it.
All right, RMC, what about you?
I just have to ask, what love are we talking about here? Who's next? I think I missed the memo here. I want in on this. What romance are we looking at here?
Oh, you're missing out on that Dark Wings fanatic duo there, man. You know they run the squad with those two.
Yeah, hey, RMC, I can subscribe to it. What do you think? We all love 100 Thieves next. Maybe that's it.
Okay, you know what? Here's my deal, Chance. You get 100 Thieves next rom-com.
All right, well, we're going to ship it. 100 Thieves next. They're going to be our rom-com. Taco Gaming, they're our comedy. Make sure you tweet at hashtag #WeAreUnified so we can hear all your opinions about the series. We're going to toss it over back to Pyra and Rebel for this second game. Can Cincinnati Fear manage to close out the upset on Jake's Kittens, or will this squad push us to a game number 3? Only time will tell.
I don't care what genre it is, we are popping some corn, Rebel Fox. This is going to be very exciting for the next game. A very unexpected game number 1 with Cincinnati Fear just pulling out all. It's getting shocking. I wonder if they can rally, if they can recover from all of that, because very clearly they gave away a lot in the draft. I don't think that's going to happen this time around.
I think that's something that had problems in the previous game. Goo being able to take advantage of that. When it comes to trying to set up a jungler like this, where if you're a Kayn player, if you're a Lilia player, and you play for a lot of either skirmish power all at once instead of ganking, farming, Corki, backseat player, open things up for your young jungler.
Yeah, and I think in the mid lane matchup in particular, you don't have to worry. Obviously, Jake's Kittens, I'm hearing they swapped to red side for this next game, so they could maybe pick an early mid. This is probably probably for the top lane, though, as long as, the bans go through, because Dragoon really did show up early, and I think Porsche had a hard time. This is something that we know has been a trend occasionally with this Jake's Kitten side, is that Porsche occasionally is the one that gets sacked a little bit, but that was a really rough top matchup, specifically because of the Darius and because of how easy of a time Gu had to start playing through the top, setting up the dives and setting up the way to just completely zone the gangplank out. Pick. But I think you can pick a mid laner pretty early if you want, and not necessarily worry about a counter matchup just because of the nameplates. But I mean, maybe that's not the way Jake's Kittens will play. Maybe they'll play it a little more safer.
I mean, I will say that, there's a bit of history between specifically the two mid laners. From back in spring, it was the first qualifier, and Golden Guardians Academy had actually played, and Ryoma was their starter at the time, if I recall properly. It was playing up against no team at the time. Blaze was playing, and they went to incredible against 100 Thieves in the final, and that game went like 45 minutes, and that game was Blaze on Victor, scaling into late game, still having an effect, still carrying his team. Like, he did all right against Ryoma back then. It clearly did all right against Ryoma in this lane. Maybe that isn't the kind of gap that we thought it would be. Maybe Ryoma can't exploit that to the level we thought, and maybe that's attention to be given. Either a better matchup with a counter matchup, like you said, maybe you still put Porsche on an island and open something up for him, or maybe more jungle attention. Maybe they do want to get their young jungler into a role of attacking for that very, very experienced veteran Ryoma to unlock the rest of the map.
I think you're right, but and then the other point I want to get to before we get into the draft for the second game is like what the bot lane needs to do on the Jake's Kitten side to really like level up for themselves, because we kind of expected, from the pick with the Samira, just it was going to be a straight up like 2v2 fight fest, but it was completely negated by that Senna Kench. Even when they brought their jungler to the party, they weren't able to get nearly as much done. I think it also kind of showed Prismal didn't look quite as comfortable on like an engage heavy champion. I kind of want to see go back to the enchanters a little bit more. Yeah, you can roam around the map, but you can also try for some of those 2v2 poke champions. I want to see what they can get done if they are able to get a really good 2v2, as we expected was going to happen going into this game 2. We have not a whole lot of changes apart from the swapping of sides, because it's still a Lucian ban and it's still followed by the teams respectively focusing on the lanes they would like to avoid giving power picks to.
And now also, having watched our first game, it feels as though Fear is going to put more presence into Dragoon, potentially Blaze, and Gu to open up topside, and that means defensive bottom lane setup for Cincinnati Fear, which tells me, okay, does Jake's Kittens want to ban Senna? I think it might have to be added to the ban list, because if you get Senna and you get Tahm Kench, you saw how easy it was for Sketch and Plux to just do nothing in the laning phase and counteract with Scooped, Prismal, and even Dunks when he joined them. There was no aggression to be had. There was nothing that you could actually accomplish. Laning phase. They do ban out the Kindred, however. Gu was amazing on that pick. I had mentioned it was one of the better picks that he was known for, alongside the Zac, and clearly they don't want him taking over the game, because that was an amazing performance in game number 1.
Yeah, I think that's a good read, to be honest. And there is the Senna ban, so we are seeing Jake's Kittens have a little bit of adaptation in what they're banning away. But critically, they do not remove the Darius. Now, I think this is one of the reasons that they didn't want to focus on that, because with all of these switch-ups of bans, it meant that they had to leave the Gwen open. A very, very powerful pick in Dragoon's hands. We've already seen it can be devastating, and I wouldn't be too surprised to see this just immediately locked in. But the timer is going to tick down for a little bit. Cincinnati Fear are going to make the most of that, and they will eventually settle on it. Let's see what the Jake's Kittens answer is right here.
Okay, I think Wukong is available now. You're banning out so many champions on blue side. The interesting one to me was the Lucian. They obviously don't want to give up Gwen and also Wukong. If they ban, or if they end up banning the Wukong, then like they would give up the Lucian and something else. So they banned out the 3 priority champions that they're like, okay, 100% Shade Kittens are going to want these. And now you get a much more powerful blind champion for Dunks in the jungle matchup. While this does open up you to try to take something like Lilia potentially, which has been the response to Wukong for a little while, at minimum you get about as top tier a champion as you can get onto your young jungler. He's not playing Graves, he's playing the Wukong, and he's probably very happy to have that in his hands.
Absolutely. Also following through on the Kaisa pickup too for Scooped, and we will swap it back here, who looks like they are hovering on the idea of a Renata Glass. This is something that we've seen from Flux, I think, before as well. It does give a lot of opportunities if they want to get a roam on. It also gives the opportunities to just try and stop any pushes, any aggression. Prismal, very engaged, and I think they're kind of building towards a nice setup. And ooh, a Tristana comes out for Sketch. So we've kind of got that nice like 1-2 punch carry here. Let's see how Jake's Kittens react. And this was the enchanter that I was kind of hoping to see. We've got the Rakan paired up.
It shifted away now from like playing the hyper defensive bot lane, and they're going a lot more aggressive. The Tristana can jump in very early, has good single target damage against the Kai'Sa and the Rakan to begin with, and the Renata can actually help with that quite a bit. Not to mention use of that ultimate for denial of the Wukong, being able to have backline active. If he happens to find the first Cyclone, you pop that ultimate, he then goes running back towards his team and has to find another way to get back on top of the rest of the team, so you can thwart that at least a little bit. I like that interaction quite a bit from Renata. So if Plux is well versed in it, we know Prismal's well versed in it, but if Plux is well versed in it, it actually could be an incredibly valuable pick here for Fear.
Yeah, and you can see that with the focus being on the bot side, it does mean that it opens up a few more jungle bans, and also, of course, for the Cincinnati Fear side on the mid, that Lilia was banned away almost immediately. They followed up with the Ahri, and on Cincinnati Fear, they get rid of Zoe, they get rid of Twisted Fate, very clearly fearing the Realm Roam potential. And for Jake's Kittens, as the timer ticks down, they already locked it in. That was going to be that Gragas picked up. On the opposite side for Cincinnati Fear, we'll have to see what the final two picks are, what Blaze is going to play. The Victor does make a lot of sense. As you said, there's plenty of history of Blaze playing up a Victor against Ryoma and holding the line. Final pick to come through will be in that jungle role, and let's see what's left.
Do we have anything more aggressive? Consistent damage is there from all the number of people. We only have one AD threat, so they do have to be an Echo pickup here for Goo.
My goodness,
got
it
magic
would.
Damage. Okay.
No, I mean Viego, that makes
okay.
a lot more sense. I was like, are they crazy? Are they gonna do it? No, okay. Viego, I mean, this is a lot of pop-up potential for certain at this point, but it does feel like there is some dependency on trying one of the be the mid lane.
To get out of the Victor lane, wants to have more of an effect, wants to have more agency inside of teamfights. Obviously, the Corki, when you scale up, those rockets can do quite a bit. We saw the package usage was actually really good the one time, that Ryoma was able to actually utilize it aggressively. This game, having the Akali, having a lot more kind of tangible, hands-on interaction in fights might be something that is incredibly useful, at least for trying to set up Ryoma for some better things. Ultimately, I think Jake's composition is a little better than what we saw in the previous game. I doubt that that's an Ezreal in the jungle. Just to make sure, I'm pretty sure that's going to be Viego. It's just a little bit of a bug right now on your screen, just to make sure that everybody
be seeing Ezreal out of the jungle. That'd be quite the swap up. Considering it was also it's also up in the ban column, but it's not actually. Yeah, well, don't pay no mind to that. But the Viego, I think, is going to be something that Goo, given what we saw in the Kindred, will have the ability to pop off on. We have to remember what Viego was able to do last season when it was kind of ubiquitous in the role. It's obviously not the same champion it used to be, but it still has massive potential, and it kind of fills a different role, right? Like, Dunks can get in and get aggressive, but instead of stacking kills, I mean, we're looking for that initiation that can set up the plays, and you have some serious dive potential here on the Jake's Kittens side. I mean, look at between the Akali and that Kai'Sa, not to mention the Rakan as well. I mean, everybody can cover the distance. Everybody more or less has a dash of some kind. And Porsche, kind of on Gragas duty, I kind of think this makes sense given everything that happened last time. You just want to neutralize the Gwen pop-off, and you're still going to have a lot of utility come the late game.
If I recall, Gragas got some solid buffs this patch, which makes him a better laner, a little bit better in general, and I've always been a fan of Gragas top lane. I think it's just a really good neutralizing pick for anybody who wants that to happen. And after last game, I think Porsche definitely needs a little bit in this regard. It's really cool because now Jake's Kittens actually have a lot of the agency in making engagements happen. They've got the Wukong, the Rakan, even like the Gragas barrel, the Akali being able to jump in, even the Kai'Sa being able to jump in, are really spectacular picks for setting up Jake's Kittens for success when they want to force their hand. But Fear's actually picked what I would consider to be a good composition into that. It's almost like a ball being thrown is the composition from Jake's Kittens, and the mitt is Cincinnati Fear. They could either jump past and just go for assassinations with Viego and get for resets with Tristana as well, or you can kind of catch them with like Gwen goes immune, you've got the ultimate from Renata, you've got the gravity field from Victor, and they have ways to work for counter engage instead, depending on the situation they have. To me, it's a little more adaptable. Jake's Kittens is a little more one note. It's like, we want to attack you, we want to death ball into your entire line of champions, and we're going to bring you down one way or another. Whereas Fear have a little bit more flexibility in their approach to how fights will actually turn out.
Absolutely, and it is interesting to see how these teams have really like changed things around, especially with the emergency substitutes they brought in today. Like we are seeing kind of like some upsets of expectations, not just in terms of the game one results, but in terms of what they've gone for strategy wise. And I think this composition from Jake's Kittens, it definitely should suit what they want to do. Give the opportunity for Scooped and Ryoma to both like be those big carry threats. That does play to the team identity well. I just want to see what Dunks can do now with this much more aggressive, solid, you know, like very high tier jungler that they picked blind early on in the rotation. A lot of priority was put into that one because the Graves just didn't have the impact. I like this a lot better, but I think that's a lot of pressure on this relatively inexperienced player up against the side of Cincinnati Fear as they're now facing down a 0-1. Remember, it's win or go home here in the Proving Grounds Summer Circuit Qualifier. Cincinnati Fear, they have clawed and scratched their way for everything. I don't think they've had a single series go 2-0 in either direction. And they are looking to keep going, make their way into the semifinals. It would be a big, big achievement for this squad that are very new to the Proving Grounds and amateur scene in general. Solid scouting, have to give them some amends for that, including for Goo. But Jake's Kittens, very hyped coming into this one, even with the different jungler. I don't think you can count them out just yet.
I agree with that sentiment. Jake's Kittens still has a lot of talent all over the place to work with, and I think it's walking into a game like this, backs against the wall. This is the first time they've really been pressured. They only lost the one game, which was to AoE earlier on inside of the here. This run of time, they know how to calm down. They know how to a position. We're now on the Wukong on a stronger champion. Hopefully he can have a little bit more influence and effect over top of this game, or at least feel more confident in being able to make plays and not just prevent himself from making mistakes.
Absolutely. It is good to see Prismal back on a more enchanter-oriented champion. I wasn't incredibly impressed with what we saw last time around. I think there were a lot of things outside of what the bot lane was doing that really, I don't want to over-critique on that regard. But I think we have seen him find a lot more success on some of those enchanter champions. For Flux, playing the Renata, it's funny because we actually talked about how Prismal's Renata was kind of an interesting point and how he could maybe have little edges there based on his previous experience as an AD carry, somebody who spaces auto attacks really well.
Yeah, these auto attacks, you can already see Plux is abusing this really quickly. It's such a long auto range. It's such a satisfying thing also, which makes a difference when you're training with a champion. And so you can see Plux at the level 1 just dropping auto after auto attack into these two, making sure to have used the range advantage over the Rakan and even over the Kai'Sa to kick things off in this lane to get the very early level 2. Difficult to walk up. Although I will give credence to the scooped pick. This is something that even back on his revival days, back in like 2020 when he was playing through the Proving Ground split and they were working through on that squad alongside Plux on the opposite side, this Kai'Sa was his big champion.
All right, let's see if he can do much for it right now. Still only on level 1. A big play forward. Plex actually burned the flash and Scooped followed through. That's support for AD carry summoners. You have to feel pretty happy about that if you're Cincinnati Fear. Rise in the top lane for just a second here as Porsche is getting a little bit off the top there. Dragoon still finding it. Pretty aggressive. The summoners, the Ignite as well as the teleport here. But we do have a roam in from Goo, level 3 on the Viego. They're going to set up this dive. That's massive right now. And here he comes on the Hero's Path. The jump in, 2 flashes. They've got him sandwiched. Exhaust is on. Double knockup. Goo taking a lot of damage, but this is taking some time. And they will secure first blood, but it does come at the cost of Flux, and that is still going to be the double kill. Oh my goodness. That actually turned out pretty well there for Goo.
In absurd fashion also, we do not care in the slightest that Plux died in that circumstance. 2 for 1, early first blood goes to the side of Cincinnati Fear. 2 kills onto the jungler, but the wave is what I'm super concerned with. This was 10, 15 minions going down that Scooped and Prismal are not going to be around for. That's so much of a difference. This was also crazy because I think Goo reacted thinking that they were going to do something a lot more defensive than they did. And then they just kind of stood there and he was like, I don't know what this is. If it weren't for that, I think this would have been a lot different and this might have actually just been a purely clean dive. Because it was incredible. But again, look at that minion count. Look at how many they just missed off the back of not being there for that huge wave. That is such an advantage that shows up now. It's really incredible to think about the amount of experience that those two have lost and the hole that they are now in to Sketch and Flux because of it. Or at least, not having been punished at least as much. The one good thing Scoop did pick up the kill is Dragoon, covered by Goo, so they're not going to be able to dive.
Yeah, Dragoon was actually holding on decently well there as Dunks kind of showed full in lane gank, it seemed like. Flash was burned, I think, a little off screen. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Ryoma actually a little bit low. Not sure how that one happened right now. Hasn't actually been able to back after this, playing a little bit of a dangerous game by just tossing out the shurikens. But you got to be careful, those death lasers. Blaze playing on low mana, but has had a pretty solid time. And yeah, you know, talking about a possible gap in that mid lane, it just has not materialized here so far. Back to the 2v2 in the bottom side. Expect the aggression to keep coming through as Plux just continually starts sending them out. I mean, Renata may have some pretty high cooldowns at early levels, but that does not mean you can't just spam them out when you have this kind of range advantage.
Well, absolutely. And using this once again, maybe to set up a dive, because you can see this wave is stacking again. Goo's on the Krugs, and maybe will walk into the jungle. Especially if Dunk's backs here, you have to be really, really cautious. With this wave stacking mechanism, I want to see what communication maybe like Scooped and Prismal are going to have with their jungler, especially this new jungler, to make sure he stays in the area. That one ward is all of the defense that they've got. I'm not sure if they have it. You can see the Viego Shroud is used to make sure that Gu can kind of get himself around that ward and into a different position in the river. As he's going to start up the Dragon. With this push on bottom lane, this is really, really free. Viego does fine into the Wukong to kick off a game like this. And with the support of his bot lane, there's almost no way that Dunks can actually go contest this.
Yeah, big gold advantage off the 2 kills he was able to secure, and Gu, pre-level 6, even able to solo out this Dragon. So even though it's not a massive focus for Cincinnati Fear, they have an opening because there's just nothing that Jake's Kittens can do to try and step up to the test. The push pretty heavy down there, and you can see the minion advantage coming in too. Keeping an eye once again on the top side, it does seem, despite a little bit of bullying attempted by Jake's Kittens, that Gwen not really too far behind in just about anything. So Dragoon hasn't really been troubled by it. He did have to burn TP getting back into lane, but I don't think he's super worried about that. Not going to be able to affect other lanes for a little while anyways. Meanwhile, level 6 versus level 6, you do see Dunks stepping up into the mid, but here is Gu. Unfortunately, Dunks just still hasn't had the... Doesn't have...
No, not able to really find the impact that you would want. Dragoon pops the ultimate, forces the ultimate from Porch as well. As you can see, there's push coming out of Ryoma, so you have the threat potentially of that coming through. Dunks is also going to go and look for a bit of an engage because he knows the Krugs are quite gone. Okay, smited away. Dunks does get something, but you can see a collapse from 3 members here on the side of Cincinnati Fear. You can see Plux has made his way up to top side. If they want to try a blue contest, they are going to be outnumbered for this. Only just now is Prismal going to show up.
Oh boy, this is a tense moment fighting over that blue. Dunks actually not using the clone, just standing still.
There's the reset.
Kind of baiting that one out. That was kind of an interesting maneuver there. Looks like the blue buff will be won by Jake's Kittens, but in the 1v1 down bot that it's become here, it's a pretty hefty advantage. Level 4 now versus level 6, and it's just Plate City for Sketch.
It's a full 2-wave advantage right now for Sketch as well, where he's going to be able to catch, what is it, 15, 16 minions of advantage, as well as the 3 plates, which is really, again, by design, Cincinnati Fear does such a good job when they're winning on the one side of the map, defending the opposite side. We saw that last game where Dragoon can push his own advantage, while the other side gets a little bit of the defense, gets a little bit of the to make sure there's no counterplay. And here, Gary, defensive Dragoon and Goose topside, at least to some extent. They lose the blue buff, but you're 100% taking basically like the 15 CS advantage and multiple plates into a Tristana to kick off a game in exchange for the 1 blue buff. Yes, Dunks might feel good about it, but really doesn't feel great to kick off a game like this where Jake's Kitten starts off at another gold disadvantage, about 15k or 1.5k.
Talked about had a lot of versatility in their roster. Their players could fill roles. We did the same day, even before the substitution about Cincinnati Fear, but they've shown it in 2 games that they've been able to swap the way that they played to the side. And I think it just speaks volumes about how well this team has been able to adapt and how well they've been able to mesh with this new jungler. Very clearly, they feel confident in the strategy they're putting out here. Now, there is a Rift Herald that is picked up by Jake's Kittens. I think that's sorely needed, but the matter is, where is Dunks going to be putting this? Because they need to try to generate advantages for themselves on the Jake's Kittens side. It's 9 minutes in, and you're already finding yourselves in just under a 2,000 gold deficit, not to mention the Dragon, that they usually have an edge in the matchup between these 2 teams. I feel like the alarm bells have to be ringing.
Just a little bit. It feels like also where you want that gold has got to be Ryoma, but Blaze, when he gets the full, like, upgraded the Aftershock for the Death Laser so that he can finish waves, it's going to be hard to try to push in as Ryoma in the mid lane. And bottom lane is your only other option, and it's losing pretty hard right now. You don't really want to put the gold into your tank Gragas. It's not a good position to actually do that. So right now, you're pretty pressed if you're Dunks, trying to come up with a situation in which you can drop the Rift Herald in a place that feels feasibly, like, useful for your team. Because putting it into Gragas isn't going to be that helpful, but it's difficult to do so for Ryoma or for this bottom side, especially when Blaze continually just puts in the damage. He's even in farm with Ryoma and also is currently just like out damaging, putting in quite a bit of work. It's been crazy because Blaze has moved quite a bit more than Ryoma has as well. He was almost there on that bottom side dive earlier and basically had no punishment for it, perhaps as a result of the range versus melee matchup, but still, Blaze performing really well in this series, perhaps well beyond where we thought he was going to.
Yeah, a big comfort zone right now for Blaze. I don't think he's had any trouble whatsoever. Like, we saw a little bit of bullying in the last game, but, Realma did also critically have some help from Dunks in a little bit of those situations. But look at how low he is on that health bar, playing so low on this one, and we're going to see the last plate taken down. I mean, Tristana is absolutely a tower destroyer, but still, the handshake comes through, and Prismal nearly bites it. This is going to be first brick just straight up in the 2v2.
This is really incredible. We just the fact that these two have had this kind of lane dominance purely against what we thought was one of the better bot lanes in the entire tournament. I think if you had asked anybody before we started up this week of play, Scooped and Prismal would have been touted as one of, if not the best duo outright here inside of the final 8 teams remaining. Yet here they are getting kind of run through by Sketch and Flux. Last game it was because of the stalling mechanic preventing them from getting aggressive. In this game, just the pure advantage that they hold over top of them right now is kind of ridiculous. As Dunks, again, he's in the bottom river. He has to think about where you want to put this. Do you try to salvage the Kai'Sa lane? Do you try to get some gold into Ryoma? I doubt you're getting any more than just the 2 plates you normally get for this. You're just going to have to sack it and make sure that that gold goes into somebody's pockets that's going to use it.
And I think we talked about how Plux was going to have to, play the Jilted Lover again up against the side of Scooped and Prismal in this one. But I think it's more the situation where, he walks up and is like, oh, that's your new duo? Not impressed. You can throw that shade so far. It's going to be a Dragon take by Jake's Kittens. I mean, critically, that is the objective equalization there, and we will actually have a Hextech Rift this time around, which opens up an absolute barrel load of fun possibilities. Now, Blaze could be under fire as Dunks and Prismal going in, looking for the dive attempt. They will wombo combo, and from downtown, they get in, they get out, guerrilla warfare style. But while they were away, that tower down bot does get finished off by the Tristana. I think this is the best play you can probably make. You're getting the Shelly charge off. Where do you go from here, though?
Yeah, I mean, from that play alone, you get the 1 kill and you get 2 turret plates where Ryoma actually really wanted to be in range. I think he did end up getting the 160 gold from just the 2 plates going down. Ultimately, though, you gave full first brick and all the plates over to Tristana, and they can start moving Sketch around the map as much as they want. That still feels like a massively losing circumstance for the side of Jake's Kittens. They just, tanked that, and they said, okay, the best we can do is mid lane play, but that's not enough. You need more for that kind of a play to come through.
Yeah, I think for right now, Jake's Kittens have been in damage control, right? I mean, you still about a 2,000 gold deficit. I do like that they were able to at least get a Drake, so it does cut Drake stacking possibilities, but because it's a Hextech Rift, I mean, this was going to be the game where, whoever was running at the other team was going to have a harder time. I think a little less so now for whoever actually secures that, if it does come down to the soul, because we didn't even see that last time around, as the handshake does catch Prismal. I mean, you got to be careful. I talked about how I like seeing him on the enchanters, but it does mean you're a little squishier, and wouldn't you know it, from bottom to top, Sketch just keeps eating plates. It's 13 minutes on the clock. He's going to get even more gold in his pocket. We already had a 12-minute Kraken Slayer. Oh boy, down to the bot 2. Dragoon is even finding Porsche, forcing ult for ult as well, and there's no tower to defend this time.
Oh, goodness. They just continue to bear down on this tower. And Dunks is here to make sure that there's no dive potential from Viego as they find a grand entrance. Not that much damage on the Sketch, though, so it doesn't matter. And again, both junglers are here. Goo's fine with this. Goo got 2 kills to start off the game. He goes Kraken Slayer for some damage into some of the melee champions that are around. I think it's a lot better than doing it into, ranged champions. When you're playing against these 3, you can access that damage a lot better. If he continues to hover around, they don't do much, now they're getting a flank. He is gone now, so this is the circumstance that I think they get punished for. Really well played as Flux. Wow.
Oh my goodness, and the hostile takeover comes through in the 2v3. They might still die for it, but Sketch is able to make it, and he gets a bailout. Meanwhile, in the middle, Ryoma's running for his life. The flash forward, the lasers. It's not enough to kill Ryoma, but the tables have turned here, Rebel Fox.
Oh.
As Scooped has now overstayed his welcome, and even with the help of the Wukong, I don't think it will be enough. Teleport coming through, and they've got to get out of dodge here. That's going to be the move back. Shuriken flip, 5-point strike, Flux just on the edge, playing around it. Handshake not going to connect, but even in the 2v2, they're feeling pretty confident here. There's a flash away from Goo. And I don't think there's enough damage from that Akali here. Really playing on the edge. Dust is going to eventually settle, but in whose favor remains to be seen. Jake's Kittens running for the hills in this top side.
Grand scheme of things, I mean, Sketch is still alive, is still pushing, or they're still pushing up in top lane, which means they might be able to actually take top tower. Dragoon is here as the replacement for all these other damage dealers that have dropped too much health. Even Ryoma's probably just going to go down.
Yeah, I think this is tough right now. You have a full health Dragoon sitting on the opposite side of the tower, just trying to cut the wave down, and those lasers are starting to sting. Oh, you can see it right there with the scissors. Dragoon is going to take down Prismal. Ryoma has to dash and flip away. Wouldn't you know it, Gwen is immune. You can't really do the damage from the distance, but that needlework is big, not big enough. Scoop does get one. They will make him pay for it. As Goo is able to take over here, Ryoma trying to hold on. And they're going to flash into the handshake. No, that's going to be enough. Another for Goo. And it's all fear in this top side.
Like, that whole situation just feels like Jake's Kittens were there on sunk cost fallacy. They're like, we've defended it this long, we have to keep defending it. Just give the tower, please. Just give the tower. You died so many times over on multiple champions to defend nothing. They still lose it. Sketch still got it back. They didn't get that kill off until like earlier on in the fight. This is like 3/4 of the way into this whole situation, and it felt like right here, this is where it could have broken. Instead of Prismal going forward, if he just steps back and just leaves, give the tower over, this team doesn't need it. Or even with the reinforcement, maybe they can stay. Maybe they can keep all three here, and Scooped and them can push off the wave, and Fear just gets to leave. Instead, they do trade the 1 kill back, but that's not worth it in the slightest. And Ryoma sticks around, I think, probably anticipating that somebody will have a back timer, gives away his positioning, and just also dies in the defense of a tower that was going down the whole time.
Yeah, a real head-scratcher of a situation, and now we're starting to see the floodgates opening on the damage dealing. Everyone from Cincinnati Fears coming online here that will be able to open up for the Dragon. Got the inside track. Ryoma sits around the side, but you see, well, the ultimates are up and available. Ryoma doesn't have that flash if he wants to get out of harm's way. Fear don't have a lot of summoners for themselves, but they do have the advantage. They do have the edge, and with a 5,000 gold lead, I think they're going to be able to keep it going. Excuse me, about 4.5, but I mean, this is massive at 17 minutes into the game. You got a 2 Dragon to 1 advantage. You've lost no towers, and you have been able to repeatedly punish the mistakes of Jake's Kittens. This very well could be Cincinnati Fear's first 2-0.
It really could. And to think that it's coming in quarterfinals, to think that it's coming against Jake's Kittens, I don't think anyone anticipated this. If I remember our predictions properly,
none of us predicted this. I don't even think Twitter was bold enough to predict this.
No one thought this was going to happen. And not to the discredit of Cincinnati Fear. Again, this was not that. It's just that Jake's Kittens have been amazing all split. We were like, okay, this is a great team. I think this will be a great series. I think they're going to be competitive, but ultimately this team should be better. But it's so clear today that Cincinnati Fear were prepared for it incredibly well. It's astonishing just how well they've been able to come out today and really just enforce their own willpower.
And let's see if they can hold on this one. Oh,
astonishing.
What a critical stopwatch! And Blaze is having absolutely no troubles. And this was the player that we thought was going to be a potential weak point for Cincinnati. Ah, man, Jake's Kittens can find absolutely nothing on the map. Sketch just continues to absolutely demolish towers. I don't know how many plates he ended up getting at the end, but it must have been like 5 or 6 or something. And now he's starting to chase down Ryoma. Sure, you're going in. He doesn't have another stopwatch and going to try to get that fancy fingers, forced to use the flash into the smoke screen. But it's a very close call, and I think he's going to eventually fall, push his luck a little bit too far in this one. But you know what? You got the moral victory already.
You really do. I was trying to rack my brain there for a little bit to kind of come up with an idea during the series where I saw Jake's Kittens make a really aggressive play and actually benefit exclusively from it. Not give something up on the other side of the map, not like, trade 1 for 1 or trade a bunch of stuff for very little. I was trying to think of one circumstance during this entire series where they really came out purely positive, and I'm still having trouble doing so to this moment, where that dive is what kicked it for me, right? Because that bottom side dive was Dunks and Ryoma saying we can kill Blaze underneath of this tower. He hits Zonia's and outplays them and just gets enough damage down. Heck, he almost had enough damage if he hadn't used the Everfrost in the wrong direction to just outright kill Ryoma with the health at about the same level as well, playing against one of these members that we thought was going to be a superstar for Jake's Kittens today as Goo. Just poking away at these members. What are you supposed to do right now? Jake's Kittens, like, if I were them, like, I would be, like, just mentally shocked by everything that's gone on so far in a game like this.
Yeah, and very possibly are at the moment. They are making a couple of rough decisions, I think, as the map is opened up against them right now. They've lost their entire front line of towers, and it does feel like, you know, they're gonna need a hero. They're going to need somebody to step up to the plate and just deliver them an absolute couple of miracles, and not just on an individual level. I need to see this coordination. I need to see the communication and just the level of team play that we come to expect from them. Obviously, there is a critical piece of the puzzle missing. You know, we weren't expecting coming into today until the last second that Erwan was going to be out, and obviously that's one player, very new, very, very skilled, but clearly that departure has been very keenly felt. And this is not a knock on Dunks. I think Dunks just hasn't been able to have the same level of impact that Goo has had in the substitute position. Here comes Porsche around the side. That is a fantastic knock and bop. This is going to be the start of something for Jake's Kittens, but will it be enough? Through the bailout, they take down Sketch onto the Baron. This is full desperation, but they might have the opportunity to get a lead back for themselves. That was what they needed.
That was gorgeous. 3 members, Ryoma behind, a lot of ultimates down.
And here's the turn onto the fight. They didn't want the Baron after all. They didn't want the kill, but they don't have enough damage, and you can see the long wave wraparound from Ryoma meant that they didn't quite get together at the right time. So they peel off the Baron, but they will lose the fight nonetheless. It ends up being a 1-4-2 in favor of Cincinnati Fear, and they're right back on the big purple worm themselves.
Goodness gracious. Okay. They're going to put, I think, Ryoma's ability is just up to the test here. Can he do enough damage to drive them off or push them far enough away? With Flux coming back, I don't think that's even going to happen. I don't think it's possible for Ryoma to really drive them up.
Dunks
they
is
might
here,
have to
though.
coin flip. That's what they have to do. They just have to coin flip and hope that they can take the Baron. They're not even going to risk it. That's a gorgeous play right there. That's Cincinnati Fear understanding. The only way we lose the circumstance is if we lose the Baron on a coin flip. They go, oh yeah, the timer for Dunks is back. They're done. That's it. That's a good call. Leaving the Baron there is one of the best calls I've seen inside of amateurs. So many teams would just commit to the bit. They go for the Baron. Maybe they get it. Maybe they don't. And the game just changes completely. Instead, Cincinnati Fear goes, who cares? Do they get priority on Dragon? Absolutely. They can't take the Baron. We don't care if they go to 2 Dragons. We're beating them in this game.
And this is incredible for a team that, like, the biggest thing we noted for them throughout this tournament so far has been their mechanical skill. That's what this team was known for on an individual level, but they have come together so well. Objective bounty does get claimed here by Jake's Kittens. They managed to grab that one Hextech Dragon, but will they be able to win the fight here? That is a big Cyclone, but the damage just clearly isn't enough to follow through as they're running wild. Already Dunks and Porsche down and out of this one. Flux has fallen, but if you are Cincinnati Fear, you absolutely take that trade. And Ryoma scooped, forced away, but I don't know if they can get away here as the charge through the jungle. Dragoon trying to keep Scooped and Prismal on the back half, dodging out some of those skill shots. In comes the Viego Goo going through here. They have enough damage to keep them all safe on the Cincinnati Fear side, taking down even more in the last-ditch effort. Ryoma, that stopwatch will not keep you alive for long, and that comes the ace at 22.
And it's gorgeous from Cincinnati Fear because the one play that worked out for Jake's Kittens was that one forcing play with a nice TP from Porsche where they get a full-on engagement and there aren't enough resources from Cincinnati Fear to win on the other side. They take the Baron challenge, they lose the Baron challenge, they can't go back into it, they go for Dragon. And Cincinnati Fear, again, they give up positioning in this river specifically so they can walk here and fight because they know they're stronger. This is their position. They're leveraging not only their individual ability but the gold advantage that they have in this entire team. And it shows in this fight. They lose the support, but they don't care because they're bringing down the important members of Jake's Kittens in the long run. Get to continue this fight around the board, but again, the important bit is that, again, the calling from this team is not infringed any different with Trickster gone. With Goo, they are doing a lot of the similar things just as well as they would have with the other jungler. I don't know whether that's praise to Fear. I don't know whether that's praise to Goo. Somebody deserves praise for it because they are playing astonishingly well good League of Legends right now. And it seems like right now they're just on the path for semifinals. So it's a statement I don't think anyone was really anticipating.
Absolutely not. I think Cincinnati Fear have been surprising in a positive manner for maybe even a couple of weeks now, to be completely honest. I will full on admit that I had not predicted this team to beat Maryville, but they showed up impressively off the back of it. Amazing sketch performance as well, and he was the hero of the day. But this time it's Goo, the player they picked up as an emergency substitute, who's not only incredibly well fit into the team, also for the second game in a row has been the primary carry threat.
Incredible to think. Like I said,
outside the Darius, I mean, there's something to keep in mind. But yeah, but Kindred still got like incredibly fed.
It was awesome.
Now on the Viego, like this is amazing. Like it's a whole different team, but it's like they've just got. It's like they're just on steroids here.
And for just a moment, I will talk about Goo, because again, Goo is somebody that I was in love with when he was on 100 Thieves. I was in love with him when he was on XT Gerb Nation, and a lot of people have given me, like, kind of conflicted views. I don't think Goo has been around enough for people to have a really, truly kind of a fully fleshed out opinion on him. If this is any indication of how talented he is, I anticipate him getting on a roster. He better be on a roster, because this has really been just eye-opening just how well he's been able to play, or at least how well he's been able to punish a very good team in Jake's Kittens, as now they're going for a Baron. This Baron, I don't know if Jake's Kittens want to fight. I talked about if you run into a team and they can run backwards, you really don't want that, and they're going to have to force their way in. It's going to die.
Yeah, this is a really good positioning between Flux and Blaze. They can just completely stiff-arm Jake's Kittens, not even giving them an opportunity to get in. So while the first Baron was a little bit flippy, a little bit of a concern, and rightly so, Cincinnati Fear backed away from it, showing a poise that we don't often see at the amateur level. They commit safely this time around. However, the face check does come through here. That could be trouble for Goo. A bailout in, and this is going to be the turn. It's enough time for the rest of the cavalry to arrive, but they do get that shutdown goal critically into the backline. Here comes Frioma. Now the rest of the team starting to follow through. This is the chance for Jake's Kittens to try and redeem themselves a little bit, but they're very low on those health bars, and they're not able to carve through the rest of Cincinnati Fear. Those scissors are starting to cut now as the rest of the team evaporates. The double kill coming in for Sketch, and despite the positioning, the ace comes through, and this is going to be into the base of Jake's Kittens.
Almost certainly, if not just a game end right now. I want to give props to Ryoma, because a couple of times now, he's a Akali who's done massive damage inside of a fight with big AoE coming through multiple members on the side of Cincinnati Fear, but it has not been enough. Jake's Kittens got run through most of these early games. The jungle gap, I will admit it, it's been there. Goo has gone crazy inside of these games. The game is going to be over. Oh my goodness, Cincinnati Fear, you have absolutely astonished us.
Absolutely. I cannot believe both games ended shy of 30 minutes in favor Cincinnati Fear with their first 2-0. An absolute shocker of an upset. And my goodness, how good this team looked. Clearly, they just needed a bit of goo to stick them together.
Really, it's true. It's amazing to see what they were able to accomplish with just a little bit. And this is what I've seen from them basically since open qualifiers, was that they were a team that had, like, Trickster's an incredibly good jungler. He's able to be, like, I called him the compass for the team, being able to point in a direction and kind of find some ability to do things. But it felt like in this game, everyone was performing super well in an individual sense. They were just completely negating any amount of pressure that was being mounted by Jake's Kittens, and it allowed for the other side of the map to take full advantage of it. They put 3 resources into bottom side. The other side of the map was winning twice as hard minimum on the side of Cincinnati Fear. I don't know whether Jake's Kittens was just on an off day or something like that, because again, we're not accustomed to them losing that poorly or that badly in multiple individual positions.
Or losing it all, and honestly.
Or losing it all, yeah. We really haven't seen it for a very long time, have we?
No, I mean, I think this was very much a table turning sort of series. But as much as you can talk about how Jake's Kittens did have, it seemed like some rare coordination issues, and how much you want to chalk that up to the jungle substitution, how much you want to chalk that up to just, I think honestly, misreading a bit in some of the draft, especially in that first game. I think you have to massively credit Cincinnati Fear, because as you said yourself, they came into this series with a plan. 2 games in a row they executed. They were able to mix up their strategy on the fly, keep their opponents on the back foot. And honestly, it's just so impressive. It's not just like resilience from this squad, because we have seen they've had a very long road to get here. Up until today, all of their series have been 2-1s, but they just stepped it up massively, and I'm so excited to see how well they can do going forward in the semifinals. We do have ourselves an interview with Dragoon, but before we get there, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We got to cool down after that one. See you in a few.
And welcome to the interview, where I am joined by the victorious top laner of Cincinnati Fear, Dragoon. How are you feeling after that win?
Dude, I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, just a quick, easy 2-0 going into like the playoffs. I mean, it was pretty. I mean, we feel great as a team right now. Honestly, it was a little awkward because we had to get an emergency sub. Shout out to Goo. I mean, you guys saw how he was playing. He was kind of smurfing it. I mean, given like the notice and everything, I mean, it was a great series. You know what I mean? So yeah. I mean,
no.
Hey.
Goo absolutely did smurf it. I feel like, you gotta give a little shout out too, because he was definitely playing around you quite a bit in the first game, giving you some room to play. But I mean, speaking of that first game, Dragoon, you got the Darius.
Dude,
I mean, how was that? How did that feel?
Okay, remember when I had an interview here last week or like 2 weeks ago? Okay, I said ban the Darius. Okay, the same exact thing happened. They picked GP and we're like, yeah, if they just pick GP, just pick Darius into it. I've run back this matchup like so many times. Every player has lost it. I've done it versus TC Force like 5 times in like the last like couple of months. I don't think like it's ever gone their way. And it was just so strange to me that like they know I'm a Darius player. I was literally like stunting on the interview here like a couple weeks ago. And they just gave me the easiest R3 of my entire life. Like I locked in Darius, I'm like, wow, this game looks so free. It doesn't really matter what they play on 4-5. Like we banned Azir. And like after that, it's like champ pool wise, it's like we're chilling. We're big chilling.
I love it. I mean, hey, you gotta respect the Darius of Dragoon. I feel like, it's a message that Amateur just has to learn once every couple of weeks. But it's absolutely always impressive. But, looking at this tournament now, you're now going on to the semifinals, and I think it's safe to say that Cincinnati Fear has sort of ramped up over the course of the tournament. You guys went 3-2 in the open qualifier, managed to make it to the knockout stage after a pretty tumultuous group stage, I think it's fair to say. And now you guys are here, and you just 2-0'd one of the tournament favorites. What's that growth process sort of been like for you guys?
I think a lot of it is, if you look at our roster, we kind of have a lot of aggressive players. Like Blaze, Brady, and Trickster are all like really aggressive players. I think on the rosters that they've been on, they're usually like viewed as like the aggressive player. They're just jumping in all the time, or like they're just perma trying to look for skirmishes. And I think that's why we had a rocky start. We have a ton of aggressive players, and at least in my opinion, it was a little bit of a shakeup from no team, at least like me, Blaze, and Plux, because Griffin wasn't a super skirmish all the time jungler compared to Trickster, for example. And with the swap outs that we had, because I mean, it was 3 out of 5 no team to this team, to Cincinnati Fear. It's kind of like when you have a lot of aggressive players, I feel like the first couple of weeks are always a little shaky. You gotta have to get all the cohesion in. Like I've never played on a team with Brady and Trickster, so it's like the synergy isn't there for the first couple of weeks. And yeah, the open qualifiers were rough, but we only had like a day or 2 of scrims, right? And it's just the cohesion I'm talking about. We're just all aggressive players, and we just don't really. At the time, we didn't really have practice together. And now that we do, I mean, we feel really confident. Honestly, we saw like the predictions on Twitter, and we were like, wow, there's absolutely no way this is real. Like we were literally going in this
Travesty,
match,
Travesty had you guys yesterday and today.
I know he's like my biggest fan. Like legit. I mean, we looked at this and we were like, there's no way this is the prediction. Like there's absolutely no way. Like we were dumbfounded.
Yeah,
like we were so confident going into this series. And I mean, it literally showed.
You love to hear it. And I mean, you guys really have brought it together, I think it's fair to say. And I love that you bring up that no team. You guys looking to replicate maybe what happened in the last circuit qualifier in the spring?
Maybe we get a little bit of a PGOQ win. You know how it is.
We love to see it. Well, it was so great getting to talk to you, Dragoon. Again, congratulations on an absolutely amazing series. I think it's fair to say that, you know what? I'll hold my L. I wasn't expecting it, but you guys looked awesome, and I know we are looking forward to seeing you guys play next week.
Thanks for the interview, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to hop back over now to the analyst desk where, guys, we were all wrong.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I got no words, man. Fear just popped off. I got nothing.
Yeah. I mean, but they looked so good. They looked so good. And RMC, I'm seeing a Super Sunshine logo. You got something to say for us?
Yeah, so first off, I love you, Dragoon, but come on, bro, you really out here talking about cohesion when Goo just joined you tonight and you played around him. That's it, Goo, Super Sunshine Fruit Basket Warriors, man. Rebel, you said he needs to be on a team. Well, he is on one of the best amateur teams. We love him, and I'm just so happy we got to see Goo pop off, both games tonight. Really fun to watch.
Yeah, and he really did. He really did pop off. I was joking with Dragoon playing around top side so well, playing around everyone so well, because you know what, in the second game, it was a lot more about bot lane and Gwen being on an island. And I think as we look towards this draft, we had a lot of questions about Jake's Kittens game 1 draft. Trance, did they answer the questions that we had in game 2?
I think they did, but they just weren't really able to pull the trigger for that game 2. There was just a few missteps, and honestly, like, just to switch the narrative over to Fear, their bot lane absolutely smurfed it. Like, that T1 dive, they played that absolutely perfectly. Absolutely perfectly.
It truly was a really impressive dive. I do think we have a replay of that one as we can pull it up, and it was so touch and go the entire way. It's 12-10 now. Tower dives are harder than they used to be. And Trance, just break this one down for us. What happened here that went so well?
So they were able to stack that wave, and they just juggled this aggro so well. If you just watch Plux set that up into the Viego stun, watch this juggling of this tower aggro. Because of that, Renata W was able to take another tower shot, who just lives with that extra HP.
Oh,
My
man.
God, that was crazy.
Yeah, and not only did they take the extra turret shot, it actually messed up the aggro as well on the Viego. So you dodged an extra shot where it went for a minion as well. It was just that dive kind of set the pace for the entire game, because Goo picks up both those kills as well, right? Yes, Goo's ahead, but who's getting him ahead? It's Sketch, it's Plux, it's Dragoon, it's all the lanes setting up to let this Viego pop off.
And it feels like a similar story to last game as well, where Cincinnati Fear, they get an advantage in the early game, but it's not insurmountable, and Jake's Kittens, they do fight back. And it led to some scrappy plays, but in the end, it was Cincinnati Fear that came out on top. We had a crazy sequence of events happening in the top lane in the mid game. I think from 12 minutes to 16 minutes was just non-stop fighting. Supports died and respawned. RMC, walk us through this one.
Well, like you said, Fear ended up on top, right? They went for this top lane play here. And it's worth noting that it was actually the side of Jake's Kittens who tried to make the play. And by this point, they were already starting to fall behind. So they felt the pressure to make things happen. But it's just the way Fear is playing with such big confidence right now that, hey, even if we mess up the dive, it's fine, right? We still kind of traded really, really well. And then from here on out, it's kind of just mechanics. And I want to highlight Ryoma, who ends up TPing in, because Ryoma, there's a reason why we're hyping this guy up, to start the night off, right? We're saying that he's really strong, really good mechanically, and you're seeing it right here. All of these follow-up plays is Ryoma just trying to find something. And then under turret as well, Ryoma's holding this 1 or 2, V3, V4. The problem is every time they're playing outside the turret, and the fact that they just don't have reinforcements fast enough. And because Jake's Kittens just refuses to cut their losses and just so, okay, you know what, Ryoma? You've held them, good enough, you wasted time, let's all disengage. They just keep throwing bodies into it. And this is where the game just snowballs completely out of control, because Ryoma can't find the kills. Whereas Fear is picking up all these kills where you're just getting baited into fighting them.
Yeah, and Jake's Kittens, they get kills, sure, but as you say, it's Cincinnati Fear. They come out on top. I feel like just looking at this replay, there were so many mechanical outplays the entire time. From Plux at the very beginning, disengaging Prismal off of Sketch, to Dragoon dodging out on that Prismal grand entrance later on. Prismal's ankles, Trance, you said it during the game, I feel like we're absolutely shattered by the end of this game, because Cincinnati Fear was going crazy, dodging everything. It was amazing, and that's the potential that we know this team could play to. This feels like what we were waiting for, because I know a lot of us casters and analysts came in to this tournament and we had a lot to say about Cincinnati Fear, because again, 3/5 of the no team roster that won the last circuit qualifier, and they had looked good but not great. And this week, it feels like we are seeing flashes of that greatness. And now, looking ahead, they are going on, I believe, to face... We might not know yet. I'll get word on that one, whether or not the other Academy stream has ended. But Trance, any final thoughts on Cincinnati Fear as we close out this first match?
Yeah, y'all better watch out for these boys because they're coming for you. Whoever's up next, they're coming for you guys.
Did we mess up by not having them be the horror movie? They're coming for them? I mean, oh my gosh.
Can I switch my vote to 2-0 them, man?
Travesty is definitely sitting there feeling real good about it. But RMC, any closing thoughts?
I believe they'll be playing the winners of EGP versus Team Pending. So we won't know till the Academy stream is done later tonight. Yeah, no, I think Fear definitely this Fear is a very different Fear from what we were expecting coming into tonight. And I think a lot of us, when we predicted the Jake's Kittens win, it's because we've seen Fear kind of struggle a little bit. Even last night, Fear did not look this dominant. But like you said, now we have to reassess. This is not the Fear we've seen so far. This is the no team that we saw. This is the Taco Gaming. Oh, it's not, I guess, because Trickster's not here. But Sketch, this is the Sketch from EGP that got 5 banned and still carried games. This is full potential Fear. And now, the teams up there have to watch out. EGP, Team Pending, whoever wins that game is going to have to study the VODs, not just of what we've seen from Cincinnati Fear so far, but also from what their peak performances looked like back in spring.
Yeah, well, other teams are going to have to watch out because Fear is coming for them. The old school slasher killer in the Cincinnati squad looked real good in this quarterfinal match. We're going to hop to a little bit of a break, but don't go anywhere because we are coming back later with the second quarterfinal match of the day. It's going to be a good one. It's the AOE Civil War. We'll see you soon.